guys, in this video I wanted to share with you all the ways that I store photos as a content creator as well as a mom of 4 who takes tons of photos with her 5D Mark III. I'm super excited to share this with you because it's kind of crazy actually now that I think about how I store photos, but I'm going to share with you all the different services I use, how I back them up, and the importance of backing them up. As a former photographer, family photographer and wedding photographer, I was a side hustler back in the day, even with a corporate job. I know the importance of images, and as a content creator, I know the importance of having content and being able to have all the things and all your artifacts and all your assets ready to basically publish when you need it. And so that's the importance of just being able to store and also access, which is really important. Now I also have a background in cloud service providers, and I want to share with you guys and break down all the different services that are provided by Microsoft Azure. Some people say Azure, I don't know how to say it, but it's Azure, and then also AWS services, and share with you which services I use from each of those so that you can easily access images. And at the end of the day, my goal is to create content or find images of my family that I can share with family and friends, and my whole purpose is being able to find images quickly as well as have a backup storage. So I'm going to share all that with you with an architecture diagram. I'll break it down, I promise, so it's not too convoluted, to kind of explain to you how you can do the same thing. All right, for those of you that don't know, I have a Synology. It's the DS1815. The Synology costs around $1,000, and that does not include the drive. And I know that the prices have gone down since I've purchased this thing, and I've had one major problem with it. I can't remember what it was, but Synology was able to kind of cover that. There was no issue there. So just a heads up, I did have an issue. I'm being transparent here, but again, Synology was able to kind of figure it out for us. Basically, I had to ship it back in and ship it back out. For those that don't know what a Synology is, it is basically a network attached storage device. I have 8 bays just because I needed to be able to expand, and I got this when I was a wedding photographer and I was trying to keep all the images somewhere that was easily accessible. Now, what I use Synology for is the ability to use their software where it allows me to sync images to my computer, and basically it's like Dropbox but with Synology on a private cloud. So I have the Synology, which is the device, network attached storage, and I also use the service on top of it because the Synology actually has an operating system, kind of like Windows and Mac OS. And it's easily accessible over the internet as well. So what Synology allows me to do is use the software on top of their operating service and then be able to have their own version of Dropbox, basically, where I can store all of my images. So all of the things that I store on my computer are actually on a folder that syncs to the Synology. So whether I'm on my computer or my kid's computer, I can easily access all the files that I have on those computers, and they kind of sync back and forth. And I can also choose whether or not I want a local copy of it too, rather than just accessing it from the cloud. That is what's great about, I think they call it the Synology Drive. And I use it pretty much on a daily basis, and it allows me to sync, and I've had no problems with syncing my files and making sure that the most recent version is there. And there's also version history when it comes to that, so that is pretty incredible. The second tool that they have is the photo moments, and I believe that this is fairly new. When Google Photos, I think, recently announced that they were changing some of their storage requirements and having you pay after a certain amount, something like that. I know that for Synology users, this was a huge thing, and so what they did was they moved their photos from Google Photos to Photo Moments, and it allowed them to have their images on Synology, which is a private cloud, but then be able to access it via the phone. And they have this app called Moments, and I can basically go through here and see all of the images that are synced from my computers as well as my phone. So again, Photo Moments is on here, and then whenever I go ahead and take a photo with my photo app on the iPhone, then it will actually sync to Photo Moments. And so what's great about this is that if I have full storage on my phone, I can delete all the photos, but be sure that it has synced to Photo Moments, which is on my private cloud, which is incredible, being able to access photos like that. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to go ahead and access photos. I wanted to post a picture of, I don't know, my 4-year-old when she was a baby. I can do that. I can scroll down through the photos right here. See that? Like, I can scroll through and based on date and just, let's say here, one from a few months ago where she's pouting, right? I can do that. And this is not stored on my phone. This is stored on the Synology device, which is really, really great. Now I'm looking at my Amazon orders. I bought the Synology on May 16th, 2016. So right now it's about 4 years old, and it has basically all of my images. I literally had a ton of these, and I'll go ahead and link to a video where I shared with you how many hard drives I had, but I had a ton of these, and I basically now have them all transferred to the Synology device. You can also use it for Time Machine for your Mac if you want a backup solution there, but I have partitioned the Synology so that, like, my husband has all of his hunting photos and all that crap in one partition. I have my business stuff on one, I have our family photos on one, and then the kids have their own like network storage on another. And so it's able to, and I can also create privileges and access to all of this. So when they get older and they need to store, I don't know, their computer files from school or whatever, they have their own partition. What's really cool is when your kids, you know, have access to taking photos with their iPad or iPhone, if you allow them, it's really cool to kind of see the images that they take, and it's kind of funny to scroll through. So being able to access those images is awesome. I've gotten rid of these, even though I love this Glacier machine, but at the end of the day, the Synology has been amazing. So I'm gonna go through a list real quick of all of the different software solutions that I use in order to back up all of my photos and be able to access them really easily. Again, Synology, I have the actual device itself, the hardware itself. On top of that, they have their OS system, which is called Disk Manager. And within Disk Manager, you have the ability to add an app, and I use Photo Moments as well as Synology Drive. And then for backup, I used to use Azure Blob storage, but that was getting a little pricey. I know that AWS has the S3, but that's also pricey, especially if you're doing photos. And so I chose to use AWS Glacier, and it's about $30 a month for almost 10 terabytes, which is not bad at all. And so you're looking at about $360 a year for that backup. But for me, that's worth it because I have peace of mind for both my content creation as well as my personal photos that date back all the way to, I think, I have images all the way back from 2000, like around college period time. So just a heads up there. I also sync to Dropbox. Now, with AWS Glacier, it's literally like archive files that go there, so I don't necessarily like access each of the images individually or go to AWS Glacier like to retrieve things, but it's for emergent situations where if I needed it because, I don't know, God forbid, my house caught on fire and I needed to be able to access the photos because the Synology was completely wiped away, I have access to that. So that is the only reason why I use AWS Glacier. I also use Dropbox, and I realize this is like another $100 on top of it, but Dropbox allows me to put all of the images, and I only do my kids' photos on here, so family photos and all that, because I like to digital scrapbook. So being able to have Dropbox, which has a really easy, intuitive like UI where I can just go through the images, and the images load really, really fast. Unlike with Synology Drive, which I find to be kind of tedious and slow. And using Synology from a web browser I find is also slow. So what I do is I have Synology sync to Dropbox as well, a specific folder, which is all of our family photos. And then we have Photo Moments, which again is part of Disk Manager, which is the operating system for the Synology. And so that allows me to take any photos I have on the phone and sync it so that I can access the photos wherever, whenever, with whatever device. And then finally, I have Synology Cloud, which allows me to have a client on any of the computers to access my files from anywhere. Don't get scared away from the architecture diagram. I'm just going to walk you through at least my thought process and how we have essentially created a backup system for all of our photos for both content creation as well as our family files and photos. All right, this is my Synology device, and on the Synology, there's the operating system called Disk Manager. In Disk Manager, you can install a bunch of apps similar to what you would do on a MacBook or a Windows machine, okay? And so on the Disk Manager, I have Amazon Glacier Sync installed. It's a one-way sync, and it backs up all of these files that I've chosen it to back up. The way that I have partitioned all of my drives is that I have a drive for kids, my scrapbooking elements, our personal files, our personal photos, video, my husband's stuff, a bunch of online blog content, anything that's related to contractual stuff for my LLC, YouTube content, YouTube video backup, Cloud Sync moments in the Plex library. Now, Cloud Sync is for files that I have on my 2 terabyte Samsung external hard drive, because I don't have enough space basically on this computer. There's only 500 gigabytes, and I know that seems like a lot, but it really isn't. So I have a 2 terabyte external hard drive, and so I want it to sync, do a cloud sync. This is the Synology cloud sync to my Synology device, so I have backup as well as on my external hard drive, so that I'm not having to hog up space on my computer. So when you come up here, you'll see that there's Cloud Station, and this is the cloud. This cloud and this cloud map up, because in Cloud Station I have a folder called Cloud, and that syncs to my Samsung 2 terabyte. That was probably a duplicate, but I just wanted you guys to know that on this device right now there is a 2 terabyte that syncs to the cloud. Okay, and then after that, from my Synology device, I have my cell phone. Right, so I take the cell phone photos. I then have an app on my cell phone called Synology Moments. That Moments folder goes ahead and syncs all the way back to my Synology. So whether I'm on my computer, I have that 2 terabyte device, goes to Synology. If I have my cell phone, it goes to Synology, and then I have it back up to Amazon Glacier, just in case this Synology fails. I have a backup somewhere. And then I also like sharing videos of our family, like our family videos. So we have this Plex library where there's a Plex media server, and so on my television, we can download the Plex app and then be able to kind of share videos of our family, like during the holidays. And then down here, there's a bi-directional sync to my Dropbox. So Dropbox I often use whenever I'm trying to sync personal photos, or I had like personal photos that were like just for Facebook, personal photos that are like the official photos that you get from school, and then other photos that are for like scrapbooking. And so I had 3 of those. It's basically essentially one of these files here, and I basically sync it to Dropbox, so that in Dropbox I can easily access them fairly quickly, because with Dropbox I feel like the latency on when the image shows up to when you like click on it is really, really fast, whereas if I were to have access it through the cloud device right here, like these photos right here are like basically stored. They're not like cold storage where I would never access them, but I would access them when I do access them. I need to be able to access a lot of photos really quickly, like when I'm scrapbooking, and so that's why I have Dropbox here. Whereas on the Samsung 2 terabyte, I normally don't store those photos there. So whenever they take school photos or whatever, I will go ahead and put them into the Synology and not necessarily have it here. I would have it like in the cloud, and then I would move it here. I hope that makes sense. And then here I can access those photos pretty easily. But overall, Dropbox is honestly for scrapbooking and being able to access photos really easily. Also files where, for instance, if we had our will or driver's license copies or birth certificate copies, that's where I would store in Dropbox so that I can access it. But sometimes the really important files, I might not do a Dropbox just so I have one source of truth. So I might just store it in Synology and be able to download the Synology like file app on my iPhone to be able to access that. But overall, this is the architecture. It seems kind of crazy. Like I said, I'm going to go through real quick at a high level how this works. Synology is hooked up into Dropbox for the photos that I need for scrapbooking, and then I have Amazon Glacier Sync that's syncing all of the partitions, all the drives that I have for all of my content. And then there is a subset of content that like is basically live content that I'm always working on, that is hooked up to my 2 terabyte drive, but then is also like kind of synced back to the Synology device. And then I have my cell phone hooking up to Synology Moments, which then goes back to my Synology device. And then lastly, I have our library of family videos that we share, so that when we turn on the smart TV, we can just access all the videos there pretty easily. And that is my setup. That was insane, and what I showed you was probably not the norm, but I hope that you kind of took away ideas on how you can access your files faster, where you can store your files, and the importance of backup solutions, especially for family photos and family files. I know just having my files accessible from any device has been important, especially when I'm like standing in line at the DMV and I need to, you know, prove out like property tax or something. I'm able to access all the files from my phone because I've set it up where like I've been able to kind of access those files on the fly. You know, it saved me a ton of time having to go back and forth from the house to go get something because I forgot. And I know that might not be worth it to you, and that's okay. I know my setup is pretty expensive. If you think about the Synology, it's $1,000 along with like $300 worth of hard drive, that's $1,300. Dropbox, that's another $100 a year, and then AWS Glacier, which is about $360 a year. So that's a pretty expensive solution, but like I said, a lot of it I could probably write off as a business expense, and then a lot of. So there you have it. If you guys have any questions at all, feel free to leave a comment below. I'm more than happy to help, and I'll go ahead and link to my other videos as well so that you can watch and see how I clean my Synology device and what it takes to kind of maintain it. So there you have it. Let me know if you have any questions. Take care. Bye, guys.